Welcome to our first session from the Digital SAT August Trial Prep course. I am Nurmeen Ibrahim, a professional SAT tutor. Let's check the agenda of our session today. First, we will take a mock test. Then the scores will be released for you to check your mistakes and to mark them for discussion. You are recommended to take notes, especially those related to the questions you answered incorrectly. Finally, you have to feel free to ask me about any questions that you are not sure about. It's the mock test time, so you are required to answer the test within 15 minutes. I'm gonna pause the video, and then when it's over, I will come back to you. The time is over and the scores were released. Now, you have the time to mark your mistakes and write down the numbers of the questions you answered incorrectly. Let's discuss the questions. So you are highly recommended to participate actively, volunteer, and speak out. The first type of questions that you must have seen at the beginning of the test was the vocabulary in context question. And I have a recommendation regarding this type of questions. Let's check something. First, we took the test and I got 223 responses. You guys had to answer the questions within 15 minutes. Then the scores were released. As you can see, we have different levels. The scores varied. These are the scores. Then, as we can see, the first question was related to vocabulary. You have 4 different vocabulary words. You are required to fill in the blank with the most logical and precise word or phrase. I told you I have a recommendation, and this recommendation is related to that book. It's going to help you study and memorize the new vocabulary words. I assigned for my students to study the first 50 words from this book. As you can see, you will study these words in clusters. So the book gives a title that is related to the meaning of these words listed here. So while you're studying, you need to write down whether the word or the group of words is positive or negative. Helpful, we have beneficial, advantageous, constructive, conducive. So you need to draw. I will recommend that you can draw a circle, write helpful in the middle of the circle, and you can draw arrows coming out of this circle and write these words around helpful. And whenever you come across a word that has the same meaning, you can add it to your group. The next one is realistic. Sorry. And we have 2 words here listed under realistic, practical, and pragmatic. Also, we have here to strengthen and support. And we will have some synonyms for this meaning: reinforce, bolster, buttress, and undergird. To use and take advantage of. We have some words listed here: utilize, employ, exploit, leverage, and so on. To speed up, expedite, facilitate, benefit, we have boon. Accommodate means to serve or assist. Appropriate or related means we have here apt, relevant, pertinent, and so on. For every word, you're given a simple definition with a very easy example in order to enhance your understanding for each word. After you study all these groups of words. You are tested. You are required to answer some questions related to these words. So here you are required to answer these exercises, which will help you understand the words and their meanings more and remember them better. Back to our presentation. So I recommend that you classify the words and study them in clusters. And as I showed you, the book will help you so much. Now, let's learn some quotations. I usually use them in order to deal with the vocabulary in context questions. When you have the same tone in the text you are reading or dealing with, then you have to apply this phrase or this quotation. Same tone, statement, and restatement. We're gonna discuss that and we're gonna apply these phrases, inshallah, when we come to discuss the questions. Same tone, statement, and restatement. What if we have different tones in the text? Like we have contradiction, you need to play the positive negative game. And then you have to predict, match, and eliminate. Predict, match, and eliminate. As you know, such questions, the vocabulary in context questions, include the keyword, word, typically appear in two types. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase, as the first example, as I showed you in the first question in the test. And there is another type of, another form of this type of questions. As used in the text, what does the word, and we're gonna mention it, most nearly mean? You need to consider these points while dealing with vocabulary in context questions. The context clues based on the required part of a speech. What is the required part of a speech? So you need to consider all the context clues written around this blank or this required word. The tone also, you have to assign the tone or the connotation of the required word based on the context, whether the word is supposed to be positive or negative. And also you need to consider the transitions, like however, in case you have a contradiction, or in addition, in case you have the same tone, or cause and effect in case you have therefore, or for example, in case you are moving from general to specific. Number 4, you need also to consider the focus or the main idea of the text through its repeated words or repeated ideas. Sorry, the pronouns that appear in the text can also show repetition, repeated ideas like this and these and those and such. I'm referring back to something that was stated earlier. Lastly, you need to pay attention to the uncommon punctuation marks, like the colons, quotations, dashes, or brackets. Don't forget that the colons are followed by explanations or definitions of or lists of what has been mentioned before them. Now, I need you to get used to the features of the incorrect answers related to the context, to the vocabulary in context questions. Incorrect answers to a word in context question may be words that are related to the words in the text but do not logically complete the blank. Or they can be synonyms of the word in the text but don't match the context of the text. So the correct answers must be, or the correct answer, because it's going to be one only, should provide a word that matches the context of the text. Now, after we're done with the theoretical part, we need to apply. But before we apply, I have to remind you with the quotations I discussed earlier. Same tone, statement and restatement. Different tones, contradiction, playing the positive negative game. Then you are required to predict an answer for the blank, for the required word, match your prediction with the best answer choice, and eliminate the ones that cannot be relevant to the context. Let's apply now. Now, the first question has a blank, and you are required to find the most logical and precise word to fit into this blank. Let's read and assign the tone. Hoop trundling, which is an activity in which a play typically uses a short stick to keep a large hoop rolling upright, was briefly considered what pastime in the 19th century? Of course, I couldn't decide upon the tone here because there is a missing word. The uncommon punctuation mark, which is the colon now, will help me decide upon the tone. So this part will help me decide upon the previous tone or the tone of the previous part, because this highlighted part is supposed to be an explanation of what was mentioned before the colon. Critics cited pedestrian and horse leg injuries as potential issues associated with the children trundling down crowded city streets. So now I became sure that the tone here is negative. What's my evidence? It's related to the word injuries. So I'm gonna immediately eliminate the choice C, which has to do with a positive word, harmless. And I will eliminate an inexplicable because I don't have any evidence for inexplicable, because simply this highlighted part is the explanation of what has been mentioned earlier. And now I'm stuck between hazardous, which means dangerous, and challenging, which means hard or demanding. Now I'm going to ask myself, which word is related to the word injuries? And this is what I mean by considering the context clues. So definitely injuries will be more related to hazardous, which is dangerous. Okay, so we're done with the first question. The second question is asking you about the word that can most nearly mean read. Okay, so what does the word read most nearly mean? Now, read is such a familiar word to every one of us, but what does it mean here in this context? So I need to consider the context clues. I took a good look, so this is very positive, at the man and endeavored means tried hard, after the fashion of my companion, to read the indications which might be presented by his dress or appearance. So the narrator is looking and trying hard to read the indications which might be presented by his dress or appearance. So obviously he's not reading a book. He's just looking at the appearance and the dress of a certain person, his companion. I didn't gain very much, however, by my inspection. So again, the guy is stressing the fact that he is or she is inspecting, looking at, observing. So let's go for the process of elimination. It must have to do with, the meaning of read here must be related to a kind of figuring out, observing. So let's apply the process of elimination. Let's eliminate now. Memorize, definitely the guy is not memorizing anything about the dress or the appearance of the companion. Skimming, I will act as if I don't know the meaning of discern. Skim means to read quickly. Of course, he's not reading the dress or the appearance. Predict, no predictions at all, no reference to the future. It was even in the past. So by the process of elimination, and even if you are not familiar with the word discern, you will end up choosing it. And discern means to figure out, to recognize, to observe. So you guys are recommended to write down the meanings of the words you are not familiar with. So endeavored here means tried hard. Inspection means observation. Discern means figure out or recognize. Let's move to the third question. And here we have a blank. We're gonna apply the same tips. Now, the choices, some of you won't be familiar with amiable maybe, but most of us know the meaning of miserable, insufferable, disagreeable. So let's check the context. Everyone brightened at the sight of this pretty young woman. This blurb doesn't offer many things for us to to learn about the text. So it's only from a novel called War and Peace. Everyone brightened at the sight of this pretty young woman. This is, like perfectly positive. So soon to become a mother, so full of life and health, and carrying her burden so lightly. Old men and dull, dispirited young ones who looked at her after being in her company and talking to her a little while, felt as if they too were becoming like her, full of life and health. So even the ones that are dispirited or they are old and so on, once they look at her or they accompany her, they became full of life and health just like her. All who talked to her and at each word saw her bright smile and constant gleam of her white teeth thought that they were in a specially what mood that day. Definitely, we came to see that the required word is supposed to be a positive one because all the context has the same tone. We didn't change the tone. We didn't have any contradiction. We started positively and we ended up positively. So by the process of elimination, we're going to eliminate the negative words. Okay, we will eliminate the negative words. I'm sorry, I don't have the pen, so I'm using my mouse to write. Miserable, of course, miserable, of bad luck. Insufferable means unbearable. Okay, غير محتمل, unbearable. And we have here disagreeable, of course, here I want to tell you that the prefix this, usually gives a very negative tone. Okay, disagreeable. So it changes agreeable to be disagreeable, something that cannot be agreed upon. So we ended up having the word amiable, which means a friendly, and it's so positive, friendly or pleasing. Please, don't forget to write down the meanings. So amiable means friendly and pleasing. And let me tell you something, that usually the prefix changes the tone of the word. So agreeable is positive. This will change the tone of agreeable to be disagreeable to be a negative word. However, For every rule, there is an exception. So insufferable here, yes, despite the fact that in can change the tone of the word that is added to it, يعني. But here it's a different case. Insufferable means still it's a negative word. Insufferable means unbearable, intolerable. So you need to be familiar with such exceptions. Let's go for number 4. And here the level of the words, I guess, became harder. Okay, disparage, stymie, outstrip. Many of you might not be familiar with 3 options. What we're gonna do in this case, you're gonna try the one that you are familiar with. If it doesn't work, you're gonna start making an educated guess. Okay? So let's check the context and decide upon the tone of the context, and we're gonna try to figure out the required word. Proposals to raise the age at which retirees begin receiving government transfers of funds are generally discussed in terms of the effects on transfer recipients. So the proposals or suggestions to raise the age at which retirees are the ones who reach a certain age, maybe 60 years old, and then they have to stop working and stay at home. These are the retirees. So proposals to raise the age at which retirees begin receiving government transfers of funds are generally discussed in terms of the effects on transferred recipients. But here we have a contradiction, a change in the direction. But Andrea Smythe has argued that delaying such transfers could do what regarding the wealth creation among working adults by lengthening the period in which they are providing financial support to their non-working parents. So here, this part after the transition but has a negative tone. So I became sure now that I need a negative tone in the blank. Now let's get to check the words. Disparage. If you're not familiar with this word, you can infer that disparage, starting with the prefix dis, can be a negative word. Disparage. Compound, to mix or combine. Or also it can be to make a problem even worse. Stymie, leave it if you don't know it. Outstrip, some of you might not be familiar with that too. So compound, it doesn't give the meaning here. Compound wealth creation among, of course, this is not logical at all. Now, if you're stuck between or among 3 answer choices that you have no idea about their meanings, you can make an educated guess and just choose anyone and move on in order not to waste time of the easier questions. And there is a probability that you can get it right. There is a probability that you can get it wrong too, but at least you didn't waste time of the easier questions, and you didn't, inshallah, lose their marks. So even if you get this question incorrectly, it's okay, as long as you will not sacrifice the rest of the score of the other questions. Okay. So disparage, let's learn the meaning of disparage. Disparage means to belittle, to criticize in a disrespectful way, So if we put this word here in the context, it won't make sense. So delaying such transfers could disrespect or criticize wealth creation. Definitely doesn't make any sense. Stymie means to prevent or hinder the progress of something, to prevent the financial progress, wealth creation. So this can make sense. Outstrip, like hinder, delay, the delay can be related to hinder or prevent. So this is related to stymie. Outstrip, when we add the prefix out to any word, it can show a sort of what, increase in the amount or number. So as if you are exceeding a certain limit. So outstrip is like outweigh, outnumber, outperform. So you see similar words. So outstrip here means exceed or becomes greater in number or amount. Of course, this is not the intended meaning at all. The wealth or the financial progress will not be exceeding anything. So stymie is the best answer. Let's move on to the fifth question. We have defunct, ubiquitous, arcane, and extraneous. Like most of you might not be familiar with these words. You can mark, you can just choose anyone, okay? Read the text and choose anyone in case you have no idea about what these words are. But you can apply the strategies of how to make an educated guess. For example, letter A, defunct. D, I know that D is a prefix that can make a word negative. Okay, so defunct, funct is related to function. Defunct, like it's no longer functioning. Okay, something that is no longer functioning. Ubiquitous means common or widespread. So if you don't have any idea about this word, خلاص, leave it. Arcane, arcane can mean, boring or hard or something like that. So it's, a negative word also. Extraneous, means something that is not common or, it belongs to, it doesn't belong to what is common. Okay, extra, from something that is extra. Okay, so let's apply, some strategies, the tones and so on, dealing with this question. As discussed by scholar Anna, however, many artworks produced in the mid-1990s to the early 2000s exclusively for exhibition on the internet, such as Cine Kim's Genesis, have become inaccessible. So this is negative, inaccessible, because viewing them requires the use of what software? So it's an adjective describing software. Okay, it's an adjective describing a software. Most notably, Adobe Flash discontinued in 2021. So inaccessible have become inaccessible. So this means that the software was there, but in 2021, it became inaccessible, or it was discontinued. So it's no longer in use. Defunct is the best answer. It's not common or widespread. It's not hard or boring. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. So extraneous is something that is uncommon. Software here is described as being defunct or defunct, which means no longer existing, no longer functioning. Okay. So number 6, Yes. Number 6 is a punctuation question. And actually, number 6 and 7 are testing the same exact punctuational rules. Okay, so let's have a look at this rule in punctuation related to the digital SAT. Whenever we see a period and a semicolon and a comma plus one of the fanboys, of course, all of us know the fanboys: F for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. If you find these options written in 3 different answer choices for the same question and everything else is the same, then eliminate them all. Eliminate them all. You can find all of them, or you can find 2 of them, a period and a semicolon, for example, and everything else is the same. So in this case, they are equal and they can be eliminated. The second rule that these questions are asking you about is the usage of the colon. Okay, for you to put a colon or to use a colon, there must be an independent clause before the colon. An independent clause means a subject and a verb and a complete thought. Then, after the colon, you need to make sure that you're offered an explanation or a definition or a list of what has been mentioned in that independent clause. So let's apply. Now, here, once I saw the semicolon and the period and everything else is the same, so I will eliminate C and D immediately. Now, I need to apply the tips for the column, and here this option doesn't offer any punctuation marks. Let's read. Located on the IJssel River in Netherlands, the city of Kampen was, so this is a subject and a verb. The city of Kampen was a member of a powerful mercantile, means commercial, alliance, means union, that dominated Northern Europe trade between the 13th and 17th centuries. So this is perfectly complete sentence. This is a perfectly complete sentence, an independent clause. Then after the colon, Hanseatic League, a loose confederation of cities from 11 modern-day countries that has been described as a precursor, means something that has, has existed earlier, to today's European Union. So this part is not, it's an extra part, it's an appositive, and it doesn't give me a complete thought, and it's offering a definition for this alliance. It's a definition for this alliance. It's an explanation of what this alliance is. So I need to put a boundary between the independent clause here and this definition or this explanation to the alliance that was mentioned before the colon. So by the process of elimination, A is canceled as well. The same exact idea is applied here. I found that A and D are exactly the same, having a semicolon and a period, and everything else is the same. So I eliminated A and D. Now I'm gonna check the colon first. Okay, I need to make sure that I have an independent clause before the colon, and after the colon, I find an explanation or a definition or a list of what has been mentioned earlier. Researchers, whoever, have lent their expertise, means skill or experience, on Black history and music to an important new initiative. So that's a perfectly complete thought, an independent clause. Timeline of African American music. Okay, so this is the kind of music. the kind of initiative that was discussed in the previous sentence. A digital resource that traces the development of individual musical genres, blah, 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 while also revealing the connections between them. So I need a boundary between the independent clause and whatever information that explains that new initiative that was mentioned before the colon. The same idea has been tested twice. Now, the third type of questions that you guys, dealt with in this test is the rhetorical synthesis questions. Okay, the rhetorical synthesis questions or the note-taking questions. Let's learn some very interesting facts about this type. These questions are found usually at the end of each module. They consist of 3 parts: the notes, the goal manifested in the question prompt, and the answer choices. We usually answer these questions without reading the notes, unless we get stuck between 2 answers. It's when we get back to the notes and read them. You need to read the goal or the question prompt very well and mark its keywords. This is what you need to do at the beginning. Then try to cover all of them, all of these keywords in your best answer choice. So let's have a look at the question, the first one. These are the notes, and this is the question prompt that we need to assign its key words and to check the choices to be able to cover these keywords in the best answer choice. Which choice most effectively uses information from the given sentences to specify let me change the color, the characteristics of the test site. So when I asked you guys, you answered A. Okay, you chose A. The test was conducted in Argentina, that's the site, in a dry grassland with a mid-latitude semi-desert climate. So these are the characteristics of the test site. Dry grassland in Argentina, in a dry grassland with a mid-latitude semi-desert climate. By checking the other choices, you will not find that they are covering these 3 elements. Let's go for number 9. The student wants to specify POPS's location. So we need to go for a choice that covers and specifies POPS's location. Here, you guys chose A as well. POPS is on display at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science in Denver, Colorado. So this is the site. In all the other choices, let's check letter B. POPS is the nickname of dinosaur fossil specimen belonging to the genus whatever. So it's not specifying the location. Denver, Colorado is home to Denver Museum of Nature and Science, which displays a dinosaur fossil specimen from the late Cretaceous period. I need the to specify the POPS's location. So I have POPS and I have the exact location, and this is all what I need. But here I'm defining Denver, Colorado is home to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And here, this part is non-essential, and POPS is not even mentioned. POPs lived in the late Cretaceous period, which ended more than, here, of course, I didn't find the location. So letter A is the best answer. The last question, and it was a little bit tricky, and, I played a trick upon you. in the test, and I invited 2 students to answer this question, and they, the one who answered it correctly actually wasn't confident enough, and I even tried to convince you with the wrong answer, but I then at the end I showed you you need to focus so much on the keywords and try to fulfill them as they are mentioned in the question prompt. And this is how some students may lose some marks or some points dealing with these easy questions. So the student wants to connect the quotation from the Browner to a specific composition. Student wants to connect the quotation, that's one. From Browner from Browner, that's one. Connect the quotation from Browner to a specific composition. So you guys need to cover all these elements. You were stuck between A and D. Of course, the right answer is A. Like when we get stuck between 2 answer choices, I have the quotation and I have in letter A and letter D. B and C are not covering the quotation part. So letter A or D, in this case, we need to get back to the choices in case you feel like you're stuck and you cannot decide upon the right answer. So by checking the notes, we found that the composition, Ballard's composition, was mentioned with that weird noun, a proper noun, incorporates hoppy notched sticks, a traditional native instrument. So we have the quotation, we have this weird name, and we have the hoppy notched sticks, and all the elements were covered in letter A. Letter D didn't mention anything about the composition part. That's why letter A is the best answer. So at the end of the session, we, we wrote some annotations and some meanings for some, new words for you. And I'm gonna post all of these now. I decided to give a wrap up of the first session. And I invited the students to ask me some questions at the end of the session. I answered them all, and at the end, I need to thank everyone who attended the session. You guys were amazing. You participated really well, and you were so active. And I remind you to subscribe to our other social media channels, like the Instagram, YouTube. And by the way, this session will be uploaded on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much and have a great day.